It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the companion show to Cordkillers. On Cordkillers, we talk about the news, what's happening, how to watch things, where to watch things. Then we get to watch them and talk about them here. This week on Spoilerin time, we'll talk about Hannibal seasons 3, episodes 11 and 12, getting so close to the end of Hannibal. Ted Lasso season 2, episode 2, and Rick and Morty season 5, episode 7. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, most importantly, for our very first segment, we've got Chris. Chris, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Mancini?
Yes, it's Mancini. Unless you're in Italy, then it's Mancini.
There you go.
So
got it. Chris is going to join us for our very first segment where we're going to cover...
Let's talk about Rick and Morty season 5, episode 7. And in the tradition this season of naming them sort of like movies, this one is called Rick on Jerry Sis Rick Vangelion.
Oh, did they change the title? Because on IMDb, they call it Gotron Jerry Sis Rick Vangelion.
Oh, sorry, Gotron. I misspoke. Gotron Jerry Sis Rick Vangelion.
Yeah, so that's 3 in a row of really, really good episodes that I liked quite a bit. Obviously I was like, okay, we're doing Voltron. Did not expect to see Goodfellas fused with Voltron. Did not expect to love it as much as I did. Did not expect to see the return of Incest Baby as a relevant detail in it.
Yeah, I thought they were just doing a bit like, oh, they're referencing Incest Baby. And then, no, it would play a pivotal role by the end of the episode, right?
I really, really enjoyed it. And I have really conflicted feelings about whether or not to show it to any of my children.
I think it's always a good judgment to not show that show to your children, regardless of their age. At that,
yeah, even if they're 48,
yeah,
it's like no.
Yeah, because my son always wants to watch them, and sometimes, like every once in a while, he's 13. I'm like, all right, well, let me find one that's not horribly sexually offensive that you
it is funny because it's not the gore. It's never the gore that really bothers me. It's as a matter of fact, on a separate side note, I think that's what was so great about Invincible is it was like The Boys without the sexual aspects, which I thought landed well.
Yeah, and it's you never know. That's the thing I love about the show is you never know what's going to happen, not from episode to episode, from scene to scene, because it literally can go anywhere. From the, like you were saying, the Incest Baby to mutant turkey soldiers to wherever.
A lot of spaghetti in this episode. I don't know if you all caught that.
What do you mean?
They're always eating spaghetti and meatballs at the dinner table. Three times, I think.
Did
I counted
notice
right.
that.
Yeah, which I think is a Goodfellas nod, essentially.
Yeah. Or some kind of like Italian mob boss.
Yeah, we're doing
wink.
a mafia thing here, so we'll have them always eating spaghetti.
So in this case, do the Gotron ferrets, do they represent like the family all got high and fell in love with the cocaine of Gotron, but they're selling it? They make a pyramid scheme of Gotrons upon Gotrons upon Gotrons.
I mean, they play it as it's fun.
Pushing it too hard. Like there is no connection. There is no metaphor. It's they want to do more Gotrons,
right?
And also they're a crime family syndicate.
Yeah, no,
that does Gotrons. That's what they do.
And to be honest, I just want to make sure that there was nothing obvious that I missed in there because I loved it exactly for what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say that there are some parallels to Evangelion with the child and parent relationship stuff, but it's not very overt. It's very broad.
Also, I loved the idea that they're like, maybe we'll just replace Morty with Summer. Let's play with that idea for a while.
Yeah, but they've also danced around that in previous seasons as well.
Yeah, but I like that they keep going a little farther down that road every time. And this time, Summer literally replaced Morty, for a period of time. Oh, but it turned out she had a parasite in her head. I don't know if that affected it. Maybe it did.
I think that was one of my favorite episodes too. You remember the parasites that kept creating these crazy characters? That was I can't remember the name. That's hard to remember the names of the episodes, but I think that was my favorite one because it was so, they're all meta, but that one was where it was totally Like, we're going to make fun of everything from the structure of film and TV shows to all of the characters created to our own show as well. I thought that was like one of the most brilliant episodes. Anyway, tangent, but
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, and honestly, that's if there is a criticism at this point of Rick and Morty, it's that I'm not surprised that I'm surprised. I sat back, enjoyed this, laughed out loud a couple of times, more than once, at the little asides, the making fun of like the fact that like, why do you need to have these things come together? Like, forget it. Don't worry about that. Uh, and it was a good time, but it wasn't in the end a Rick and Morty episode that I could say like, wow, I never expected them to do that.
uh, but I can say it's the kind of episode I would hope they would do,
Sure,
and I'm
yeah.
happy that they did it.
Like they have created a form that they now fill quite well. They're the best at it.
If number one, I liked it a lot, but number two, if I was gonna ding it on anything, I think they opened up kind of two doors that they didn't really follow through on. One was the voiceovers talking to other voiceovers, which
Was Parasites.
right. And actually, you're right. I withdraw that. Then number two, I felt like they could have developed a little bit more. They were kind of onto something interesting with the cultural appropriation of anime or whatever, which would open up an interesting discussion. Like is there a case to be made against Avatar: The Last Airbender or whatever for aping the style of anime or something. But
Yeah,
I don't have any solutions for them.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so like that's all I can think of. That's the
They could have
only
pushed
like
down that road.
unclosed door.
Yeah, I think that's my problem is I don't have a lot to say about this episode, and not because I didn't enjoy it. It's that there's nothing. It's not like they pushed new ground in the Rick and Morty way of doing things. Does that make sense?
It does close the door on the evil Rick and Morty theory that was floating around, which we can now talk about because he definitely says he's C-137 Rick.
I did not hear that theory. What's the elevator pitch on what that theory was?
The theory going around was the reason the first few episodes were not as good as you're used to is because this is the origin story of not our Rick and Morty, but of evil Rick and Morty. And that was like that was some next level gymnastics people were doing. And so I'm glad that
Part of the
seems-
evil was you not enjoying the episode as much.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that seems very, very specific to say. Well, these episodes aren't good because
they're evil Rick and Morty.
No, you
yeah.
just
How
didn't
do
like
you retcon Rick and Morty? I mean, that's impossible.
I mean, the thing people don't get about the Gear Wars is that
Well, anything else on season 5, episode 7 of Rick and Morty?
no, I liked it a lot. I liked. I think it helps if you're already a fan of Goodfellas and a fan of Voltron and a fan of all the coke dealing tropes that were like. It really helps. Like in the Venn diagram, if you are, in other words, me. It's a great episode. All you have to do is just be my demographic.
No, I think that's the key. Is this episode is really good if you get the jokes. They're great. They're hilarious jokes, and it's a well constructed episode. Any last thoughts from you, Chris?
No, I think that's I felt the exact same way. It's like, okay, I get it. And, when I had to watch them with my 16-year-old, I have to explain certain things. But they're, the show's really for us.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, that is Rick and Morty season 5, episode 7. Chris, thank you so much for sitting in with us to talk at least about Rick and Morty. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. This was great. Thanks for having me on.
And if people didn't hear Cordkillers, remind them about your Kickstarter and where they should go and what they should do.
Absolutely. It's Rise of the Kung Fu Dragon Master. It is a graphic novel that's kind of it feels like an 80s action buddy comedy that kind of like a Big Trouble in Little China and a Goonies, all those things kind of combined, Jackie Chan movies and all the Black Belt Theater movies that I grew up with. It's on Kickstarter right now, Volume 2, but you can also get Volume 1 as an add-on or in a package, or you can get it at whitecatentertainment.com, and that's also where all of my other graphic novels, books, and podcasts are.
Excellent. Thanks again, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
All
Bye.
right, take care. Let's talk about Ted Lasso, season 2, episode 2, Lavender.
So
A
I've
kinder, gentler Ted Lasso.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Because I've now rewatched both episode 1 and episode 2 twice. And I think episode 2 is just flat out better than episode 1. But as we talked about last week, I listened to, my first experience of episode 1 involved a lot of screaming from my children.
Right.
So I don't know if I just didn't, whatever. I wasn't in the right headspace or whatever. But I thought this was very, very funny. And in fact, I actually tried to go in being skeptical, but I busted out laughing when I found out what Keely was watching on her phone. It was too good.
Well, and the whole execution of that storyline, I love Roy's entire storyline, and I love that what I think they were doing, as I said in episode 1, was ramping us back down so they can ramp up. And one of the things that I think they're doing is saying not every storyline is about Ted this season. We will have a Ted storyline, and we've got that. It's very obviously the doctor and him and that relationship. But that's going to be on simmer, and we're going to explore some other storylines. Some of them will be silly, like Higgins not having a desk, but Roy's is really interesting, where he's the coach of a little girls team, and he finds that perfectly satisfying. Why would he need to do anything else? But also Keely is encouraging him, like, yeah, but you missed the sport. That's why you like doing the little girls thing. Wouldn't you like to be around the sport more? And encourages him to go on TV, where he just let loose his swear words, and they love it. They're like, we probably should get him to settle it down. But he was great. People loved his genuineness. And then you've got the entire thing with Keely getting turned on by his retirement speech. He's initially put off by that because he doesn't like that aspect, but respects that works for her, and then rewards her with it by the end of the episode. This is great.
So I fully expected Roy to return as one of the coaches of the team.
Right.
I think I like it even better if he remains on the periphery as sort of this wild card out in the orbit where he has to speak plainly. He becomes this puckish character where at some point they're going to play a game either well or poorly, and he's going to have to decide how much of the truth he wants to tell about how he feels about it, knowing that other people are going to hear it and so on.
And if you notice, he's clearly distanced himself from the team. Like, Ted starts to walk up and say hi, and he just takes off after dropping Keely off.
Yeah, but that's also Roy.
That's just so Roy, right?
Right.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He doesn't feel like, oh, let me hang around, right? It's Roy's like, no, I've got other things to do. Bye. I'm out of here.
On the flip side, 2 episodes in, I'm a little bit over how hard they're hitting us over the head with Nathan is a powers gone to his head coach.
But he's gonna they're setting him up to get dealt with next week.
Correct.
I think.
Yes, I agree.
Well, the episode is named Lavender. Oddly, I feel like that's overpromising, because there really is just the one scene where he gets really upset about the lavender, and I think there's another scene where he rolls his eyes, and Coach Beard kind of looks at him like, what's your deal? But we don't really deal with it. It's kind of just left hanging out there.
Yeah. I will say one thing that we all know is coming is there's going to be some kind of opening up of the sports psychologist or whatever. I do intellectually enjoy watching her say, oh, this is disarming. This is how you deal with new people and all that stuff. However, I look forward to the moment they get her to, I don't know, sing karaoke or have a drink or whatever it is they do to loosen her
get
up.
her.
But in the meantime, every
I-
frame that she's on is just an energy void that just like this is.
But that's the point.
Fun. Well,
Right.
Yes.
No, I get what you're saying, because you kind of have to do that to do what they're doing, which is you will get tired of Ted if he's always Ted, right? All of us will be like, that was funny the first season. And so this short circuits that and says, like, here's someone who's really tired of Ted, and you may not like her, which will make you kind of defend Ted. But it also explains why Ted is who he is, which deepens his character. But I don't think you can do that if she's not as dour as she is. I don't
I
know.
don't think that she's tired of Ted. My takeaway, I
Oh
really
no, I'm saying we could get tired of Ted
I
as
see.
viewers. So you have her come on and short circuit
Yeah.
and be like, "Oh, I'm not totally charmed by you like everyone else is."
And what I really like at the end of this episode is like I actually don't hope that they open her up. I hope that she continues to be the professional that she is. And but she's not a foil, especially at the end of this episode. Her whole message to Ted is, "Hey, congratulations! You've been doing the Ted Lasso thing, and and
you have a healthy, happy environment where everybody's well adjusted,
and everybody loses
that doesn't
every
win
week,
games,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I love. She's on
foil,
like
but she's
not
not a foil.
She's
on the team,
as in battling, but foil as in the opposite of Ted.
Okay,
right,
sure. But because I think what they're setting up, not as an opening up for the Doctor, but a real like heavy skepticism of, hey, actually, Ted, like it's fun. We're all lovey-dovey. That doesn't make winners.
Right.
This building is to make winners.
Right.
And
also, this building is to make enough money, enough winning that brings in the money that keeps this building going, and so on.
Right. And so, like, I'm very excited about a more decisive Ted, and a Ted that recognizes he has to dip into being competitive, not because it's a dalliance, but because he needs to. That's the he's a coach. Coaches need to work for wins.
And it's great because last year you had he can't possibly do well, but look, he actually did better than you expected. And he didn't. And they got relegated, right?
Yeah.
But still, he won hearts and changed things and showed that the team could be better than it expected, and got Rebecca. The biggest win was getting Rebecca to admit that she could make something of the team instead of giving up on it and using him as sabotage. You don't have that. Now he and Rebecca are good. Rebecca isn't trying to sabotage. So Rebecca was his foil last season. The Doctor makes an interesting of like, yeah, but what you did last season where you charmed everyone but still got relegated, that only works once. If you keep losing or tying, that
you can't be a champion
your charm
without
wears
wins.
off real fast.
Yeah.
And like you say, like this is a business and it has to succeed, etc.
The closest we got last season to the energy of the Doctor is that moment that Coach Beard snaps in the second to last episode where he slams his hand down and says, "Damn it is about winning. There are winners and losers and this matters. What are you doing?" And you can't hold on to that angry energy for a season, half season, or however long it's going to take. So absent that, it seems like a fine decision to make her sort of a energy void where it's just like, this nonplussed, blinking when he does his shtick thing. But there's not a lot of comedy room in that.
Well, she's not a comedy character. So I did think it was very
unfortunate because it is a comedy show.
I wouldn't call it a comedy. No, I wouldn't.
Oh, interesting.
I would call it a dramedy like other Bill Lawrence shows.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean,
Bill Lawrence is known for the dramedy.
I think it's conceptually funny. It's not a joke. It's not necessarily a setup joke, but I love him giving the Doctor Rebecca's biscuits, her clearly not wanting them because they're sugar, him like soft forcing her to take a bite, and then she gives them back, and then he still gives them to Rebecca, including the one that she bit.
And directly and immediately confesses I tried to give it to her.
And then that conversation that he has with Rebecca of like, oh my gosh, like we don't need therapists, we're friends do this, and then immediately neither of them want to open up to the other. It's like it's not funny, but
yeah. So because last year the dynamic was Ted takes care of everyone else and makes everyone else better except Ted. And the only time that it becomes clear that Ted needs someone to help him is when he utterly breaks down. And Rebecca finally has to notice. And it's the thing that helps turn Rebecca around on him, etc. That's no way to live, though. And so Rebecca doesn't want him to break down again, right? So she's like, yeah, we're fine. That's good. But it also means that Ted's not dealing with any of the divorce, separation, etc. that is happening because he's there. And I think the Doctor is subtly pointing that out.
What I really like is that they're introducing the dynamic of the question, like she's a psychologist, and here she is bumping up against the most psychologically healthy person in all of not just all of Ted Lasso, but on television, in terms of self-awareness and where he comes from and what his goals are and why he does things. Like he's very quick to point out, like, oh, I have this self-destructive tendency.
He does a lot of the things that a healthy person would do.
That's correct. But then she says, like to me, things got way more interesting when she says, but how many goals does that score? Right. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, she's not here to make people healthy. She is here to make people winners. And part of winning means experiencing unpleasant tendencies and maybe focusing on the things that drive us, which includes a lot of bad self-talk and so on. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
And I think that ties into Jamie Tart, which is the only part of this episode that we haven't talked about, which is Jamie realizing that he's burned all his bridges, Ted telling Jamie in a very fatherly way, sorry, but this bridge is burned, and then changing his mind about it because of the person who complained about Jamie possibly joining, and Ted saying, not everybody has a good dad like he did, and I want to help Jamie be a better person, which is very season one Ted of like, I'm going to help. I'm going to do this for the greater good.
That's interesting because it opens up the question of, do we believe he's doing it to be the better dad, or do we believe he's doing it because it might be nice to score some points?
Well, there's a little of both, right? Like he could both can be true. He can be like, Jamie does need a better role model, and we can help Jamie, and boy, could he help us score some goals, and I could prove that doctor wrong.
And it also it sets up a more decisive Ted. I mean, we saw that at the beginning of this episode. He didn't know what to do with Jamie Tart. He had the Diamond Dogs thumbs upping, thumbs downing, and then he didn't even really listen to them either way.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that's what it seems like that's what they're setting up as Ted's character development this season, is becoming more assertive while still having the very, Southern charm sort of thing. But
Kansas charm.
Yes. Pardon me to all of our Kansonians.
Americana.
Yeah. And I like that. I think that's a very interesting turn. You're right. Can you still be everyone's best friend and also a winning coach? Because a lot of coaches are not friends.
Yeah.
They're not friendly.
Right. And we know Ted can be firm and can be like, hey, I'm not always going to be on your side. We need to do this to do better. It's a balancing act. And it's going to be fun to see. I think I'm convinced, Bryce, it's a dramedy. You're absolutely right. Not a dromedary. All right. Any other thoughts on Ted Lasso, season 2, episode 2?
Back to my original question, episode 2 or episode 1, which one's better?
You can't. That's like saying which side of the fork is better, the handle or the tines? Like, you need.
I'm just
both.
asking for permission.
You have to have
for me to have had much
2.
more fun with episode 2 than episode 1.
But I don't think you do if you don't have episode 1.
Fair enough.
I remember more of episode 2, but I also saw it more recently. But I think that it's both. They're both good. Who needs to rank them? Who needs to rank? Right. But
all right, that's Ted Lasso season 2, episode 2. Let's talk about Hannibal season 3, episodes 11 and 12, and these are "And the Beast from the Sea," as well as "The number of the beast is 666," which apparently was a mistranslation. I've heard it's actually 616, but kind of stuck with it in the lore now. So there you go. I'll be honest. I'll start off. I started to get bored again with these. It felt draggy to me. Not as much as the Italian episodes, but I just found myself drifting a little, and I don't know why. The Red Dragon is a compelling villain.
No, he's not.
And
ooh,
okay, I think I should say, I think the Red Dragon is a compelling villain. He's interesting. His relationship with
Reba?
the girl from True Blood is really good and complex, and shows that he's got depth. I think, I'm loving the sort of Hannibal still has a crush on you, Will, and this is how he shows his affection for you. And that explains a little of why Will is drawn into this, instead of just steadfastly saying, no, I should stay home and protect my family. And I guess the part that I was didn't feel like there was as much of a foundation laid for was his wife not being upset about all this, but being so well prepared for this to happen.
Yes, that is a silly part of the last two episodes. Also, a silly part of the last two episodes, the pantyhose daredevil mask that the Red Dragon wears. Also a silly part, the voice that the Red Dragon does. Also a silly part, the fact that they build a library for Hannibal to live in and take away his books.
They let him eat the lips. That was, if anything,
they didn't open the goddamn envelope.
They definitely should have opened his mail, but they didn't let him to eat.
Gentlemen,
okay.
I bravely,
no,
here on the eve of the final episode, declare that the first two seasons of this show was quite good, but that the third season, while gorgeous, is very silly. That is my
breaking news
proclamation.
I would not use the word silly, because I think all of that stuff plays in context better depending on how it's going. But I'm drifting. I wouldn't use the word silly, but I would use the word less compelling than the first two seasons for me.
You know what it is? They're clearly like adapting Red Dragon for the show, and I think that's what they were doing with the Italian stuff. I don't exactly know, but I think one of the books is a lot about that. That as well, which I think is bad for both of those stories, because the only time we've ever had a very long arc on Hannibal, the TV show, has been either in season 2 when we knew Jack and Hannibal were gonna get in a fight, and how do we get there, or season 1 of like, hey, how about we try to catch Hannibal Lecter maybe. Where both of these stories in previous seasons would only be 2 or 3 episodes, but instead they're 7 or however long they are, 6 or 7, which is just too long, right? There's not enough there. There's good stuff there. I think the Red Dragon stuff is cool. He's unwell, and the interesting CG
and he's
stuff.
Struggling with himself and his darker impulses and his better impulses, and Hannibal's the devil on his shoulder. Like all that stuff is great.
But it's not so dense that it needs 6 episodes dedicated to either of these plot lines, and it's a shame, because you kind of wish we could go back and push them to figure out another storyline to wedge in here, rather than stretch.
Somebody in the chat is saying, I can't help but wonder when Brian's being serious and when he's being contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian. I'm guilty of both, but I'm sorry if this
clearly
does not look silly to you, then you and I have different understandings of like this is stretch credibility to the point of snapping. It's silly is a kinder word than ridiculous, which is what I really want to say. This is a ridiculous, comically ridiculous, beautiful show. It is beautiful.
It's beautiful,
but it is a F-wording cartoon at this point.
And it's got good bones.
Somehow Rick and Morty is more credible than this show at this point.
Yeah, because I also didn't buy the Alana scene where she's like, your lawyer's on the phone. Oops, not your lawyer. We know. It's like, wouldn't you just tell him, like, hey, we figured it out?
Also, didn't you have like one disfigurement, which was you had to carry a cool cane, and now you're not even doing that anymore? We're just pretending like
physical therapy.
Then the dude who gets set on fire and has his lips bitten off. It's like, were you shot in the head and your brain exploded out the back?
I was like, oh, Chilton's finally dead. I almost texted you guys, Chilton dies again, and then he's alive in the hospital. I'm like, oh, wow.
And the best part is he's alive in the hospital, looking like a roasted pig, and he speaks in plain English, and Will translates plain English to the other person in the room. It's like,
I wish they could have done this.
It's like, I talked to the Virgin guy for so long, I learned how to talk like this.
Oh, what Brian said is, I talked to the Virgin guy for so long that he's learned how to talk like this.
Yes, look. Yes, it is surreal. But
it is.
But it's I would guess that it is meant to illustrate how much unprecedented power there is in keeping a Hannibal Lecter alive, right? You could have just carted him off to the electric chair. I'm sure you've got a mountain of evidence at this point, but you have to win him over, right? He's very valuable in profiling these killers. He is a killer himself, but you take the good and the bad with that, which includes giving him this big foyer of a prison and having him
say, man, like to be a fly on the wall when Jack Crawford says, this man is so dangerous, he must be kept in a library. There must be a crystal clear divider with holes big enough for any party to reach
very
through.
Big holes, very big air holes, actually.
But the only place we can install that is the library. Well, empty the library then, because that's where we're keeping him. Yeah, I kept waiting for it to be revealed that he's in a like normal old cell, and that was just one of those like fanciful representations. And then I guess that's just where he is. I am interested in what happens with the Red Dragon and Tara from True Blood. McLean, that's her name, McLean.
Reba.
I like that. Really, that's the thing I pay attention to the most when I'm watching this, because I like that dance and the fact that she's blind and the fact that he really has feelings for her, but he, the other part of him knows that if he has feelings for anyone, he won't carry out his missions of evil, and I'm that is what I'm interested in finding out more about in the final episode next week.
Yeah, it's certainly made me think of what I would have to do to watch the movies. Or for some of them see them again, because it's been so long. Yeah, because it would be interesting.
I think the sad thing is that I'm not that interested in Will and Hannibal's relationship at this point. It's been explored so much, and it doesn't seem like there's any aspect of it that's new, other than Will being torn by his temptation by Hannibal.
I am deeply curious as to how they're going to, in the very last episode, come up with one more character who talks without lips.
Can they do it? Can they squeeze it in?
Can they find a way? I guess maybe a flashback. Also,
it's gonna be a Hamlet ending. No one will have lips.
Oh, one last thing. What do we think about Will seeing Dr. DeMaurier? Was that a therapy session, or was that them talking?
Of all the therapists to go to, why would you choose her? Like,
oh no, she would be the one. She's the only one who understands.
Mm-hmm.
That made perfect
sense
to be
under his thrall. But it just felt it just felt weird because of that initial reaction. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, right. I was like, oh, therapy. The part where you bare your soul and tell your deepest secrets. She seems trustworthy, right? Sniper villain.
I don't know, guys. I actually buy that. I'm like, no one is going to understand what I'm talking about except her. And yes, she's untrustworthy, but that's the only way I can get this off my chest. And it's about talking. It's about talking to somebody who understands. I don't know.
I think what you meant to say is, it's about talking.
I can't talk to Burger anymore, for goodness sake.
No matter how much vital sperm he had.
I just had Will Graham translate that one for me. Sorry. I do think the only reason I bring up that question, because I think that reasoning makes a lot of sense, is when she goes, "Hey, you know how you stole my man from me? Hey, isn't that awkward?"
Yeah.
Because it is.
Well, there's a little bit of a triangle going on there. And yeah, I mean, Hannibal is the ultimate bad boyfriend that you just can't break up with. You know, Will just, he knows Hannibal's bad for him, but you know, and he keeps making it, well, I guess I have to see him to consult about catching the red dragon. But Will, why are you really going?
He's that little lamb. He's the dangerous little lamb.
Yep.
He said, I'm the little lamb.
No, please just cut it off after.
Lipless lamb. Well, that is the number of the beast is 666 and something else about the beast. Hannibal episodes 11 and 12 of season 3. And that is it for Spoilerin Time. Thanks everybody for being with us, for supporting us at patreon.com/cordkillers, where you get these episodes early. Next week, we will be talking about Rick and Morty, episode 508, Ted Lasso 203, and the series finale of Hannibal, season 3, episode 13. I'm Tom Merritt. For Brian Brushwood, Bryce Castillo, and Chris Mancini. We'll spoil you again next time.
We'll spoil you later, or you can spoil us.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.